Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast. Spoiler alert, we don't discuss conventional, linear, boring career change here. This is the place where we talk about finding an aligned career path that feels like an extension of who you are, where you get paid for being yourself. Forget personality quizzes, soul-crushing scrolling on job sites, and breaking your brain trying to find your why. Join me and many other career changers who've changed their career holistically by first defining who they are at their core and then using this blueprint to design a fulfilling career or business. We use the mind-body-soul approach, and we take into consideration the complexity and multidimensionality of all that you are and want to represent in the world. This is where purpose-led careers are born and built. I'm your host, Vilma Osaita. Let's go. Hi, friends. Okay, so I do have another amazing, heartfelt, inspiring, and very sparkly conversation to share with you today. And it's one that I actually been so looking forward to release because it touches on something that I see every single day in my line of work, which is the courage that it takes to listen to that quiet voice inside of us that a lot of the times is whispering, listen, there has to be more than this, and I think it's time for change. So in this episode, I'm joined by two incredible, very inspiring, strong women, Annore and Kellie, who were part of the last Holistic Career Change group program. And I know that their stories are going to resonate so deeply. If you've ever felt, for example, that numbness, maybe that emotional disconnection that comes when your soul and your work are completely out of alignment and are going separate directions. You know that feeling when, for example, your body literally shuts down and responds to misalignment with what Annore, for example, calls emotional inflammation, that constant low-grade stress, anxiety, the Sunday scaries, and the way how your nervous system just contracts every time you even think about going to work, let alone being at work. Or those stories we tell ourselves about why we can't possibly change course. For example, my skills are only relevant in one industry, or I don't know how to do anything else, or I can't afford to start over. And in this conversation, we explore how these narratives keep us trapped, but more importantly, how to break free from them. The ladies also get real honest about something that doesn't get talked about enough, which is how sometimes the people who love us the most can become our biggest obstacles. Not because they don't want us to be happy, but because they're terrified of watching us leave the familiar path, even when that path sometimes is slowly killing our spirit. And I am sure you'll enjoy hearing Annore and Kellie share what it was really like to reimagine the professional life outside of the familiar status quo and the careers that they had frankly been building for decades. How do you even begin to construct that soul-aligned career when everything that you've been taught about success might be pointing in the opposite direction? And for those of you, by the way, who are manifesting generators listening, they will also get really real about the challenge of building the bridge between a very exciting vision and that messy, non-linear reality of bringing it to life. And while this challenge is not exclusive to many gens, I will tell you in my practice, I found that this is something a lot of them will struggle with. By the way, we also talk about the magic of being held by a community of other women who are walking the same courageous path as you, and how healing it is to not do this work in isolation and just allow others to witness you. The imperfect you in limbo, you uncertain, you crying, you laughing, and all of the rainbow of emotions. And yes, we do go there. We do talk about the primal fear of being truly seen, and that collective wound so many of us carry about taking up space, asking for, and then receiving the help, especially as women in this world, and I will add, especially as light workers as well. And by the way, an interesting one that we chat about is what it's like to shift from being a consumer of other people's dreams to becoming a creator of your own reality. And I know that that is the intersection that many of you currently live at. So I think hearing about it is going to be very useful. And of course, you'll also learn about the new exciting businesses that these women are now building, the work that actually lights them up from the inside out. And maybe, just maybe, that will be the spark that will ignite your very own knowing that it's time to listen to that quiet voice too, just like Annore and Kellie did. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm obsessed with these two ladies. I love their energy, and I really hope that Annore and Kellie's stories remind you that the life that you are dreaming of isn't just possible, it's available. But it will require us to surrender and just take that first damn step even before the path appears. Because when we take the step, the path will always appear, even when it looks nothing like we expected the path to look like. You're in for such a treat. Enjoy the episode and just make sure you listen till the end. Hi, ladies. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for the hi, Annore. I'll start where we always start. I'd love for both of you to introduce yourself. Annore, maybe we'll start with you.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Annore. I'll just say my human design as that's going to tie in with who I am. I'm a 6/2 manifesting generator, and this is my first time on a podcast, and I'm happy to be here and have a chat. I've just obviously completed the career change cohort with you.
Thank you. Good to have you. Kellie, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll follow suit. I'm a 130 Manny-Gen also. And Nora was my buddy in your career coaching program, so I'm happy to also be here.
Yay! What is it like when two Manny-Gens connect? Because you're both sacral as well, right?
I would say it could be a grunt fest, like no. But I really enjoy it. I have a lot of inspiration and a lot of energy after I talk to specifically Annore, but I'm not sure if it's all Manny-Gens, but definitely Annore.
Mm-hmm. What is it like for you, Annore? Can you tell the difference when you interact with different types?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I know most of the people that I actually get energy from are Manny-Gens. So a couple of my besties are Manny-Gens, and I really feel energized after being in their aura. Kellie and I would have a weekly check-in, and it's like, the conversation can go in a million. It starts one way and then it ends on a different continent. It just goes different directions. It pivots. It's also really cool that we got matched up because we can kind of validate each other's needs to want to do lots of different things all the time and have very many interests, which is classic Manny-Gen. So yeah, I always found every time Kellie and I did voice notes or spoke, it was just full on 1 hour, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, what just happened? So very energizing.
This is so interesting. Okay, let's not make it just the human design podcast though. So maybe where I'm going to start, always say the same thing is I really love the before and after story. And even though you're not exactly after, you are after the process. And I feel like I would love to hear from both of you the before, meaning, and before could have been years of you feeling misalignment and feeling like something in your life is just not working for you or not working for you anymore. And I'd love for both of you to share what it felt like, where there's some symptoms that you're experiencing that showed you that it's time to pivot in your career, in your alignment. And the reason why I always ask that question is because I know there are so many people who are listening to this podcast who are that right now, who are feeling the symptoms, who are misaligned, who are crying themselves to sleep, and they don't know how to move and where to go. And I feel like sometimes hearing these stories is just I don't know, is healing, I guess, to understand that you're not alone. And I think that was part of the theme of our group as well, of this group, is really meeting like-minded people who are going through similar emotions and experiences. That alone, I feel like, that alone is already great and supportive. So maybe Kellie, with you, because your journey has been interesting as well, could you maybe start sharing with what it was like for you, or maybe to some extent you're still experiencing when it comes to misalignment?
Yeah. So I think I've been asleep most of my career. I was just kind of, what's the goal? Let me achieve the goal, climb the ladder type person. And then kind of had a shift around really trying to push through to find more authentic, something like that I can really pour my energy into that is beneficial, not only for myself, but for others, and not just chasing a dollar. So I was thinking about it for a while, back and forth, spinning around. I'll look at this, I'll dig into that, like bouncing all around. And my husband actually said, if you're gonna go somewhere, you probably need to stop spinning. And I was like, "Brr, don't tell me what to do." And then I got on Instagram and I found you actually, Vilma, and that was like at 7 one morning. You had an opening at 7 the next morning. So I reached out, did the intro call and was like, yep, this is what I'm gonna do. So I think, first for me, like frustration, I'm feeling stuck. I'm not like doing what I should be doing. I'm not at my capacity. Like those are the feelings that I have had and still somewhat have while I figure out where I'm going.
Were you have any physical symptoms, Kellie? I wonder. Sometimes misaligned people will have physical symptoms.
Not so much. I think one of the, like for me, a physical symptom is just being numb, and like part of this journey has been coming back online,
Mm.
and that is its own type of process, not always pretty or fun or appealing. So I have been trying to just be more present with my feelings or my emotions or the gremlins or whatever it may be, so that I, don't just numb out, which is kind of the physical symptom that I kind of lean on.
Hmm. So you were basically mostly living in that kind of freeze zone, freeze mode when it comes to nervous system, right? So completely disassociating, disconnecting, and just kind of getting the shit done, basically.
Yep, 100%.
And that's been most of your like professional adult life, coming in, getting shit done. That's a question. That's a question mark.
No,
That's
it's a giggle because it's pretty much been my entire existence. But professionally, for sure, definitely, that's it's served me well. Actually, it served me beautifully. In that it's a way to just hunker down and get shit done, and that's what I can do. I can get a lot of shit done, but it ignores the me part, and so that's the thing I'm trying to get back in contact with.
Mm, that's really interesting. Because I feel like, especially in the corporate world, right, that's what's being rewarded is like you being quote unquote non-emotional, like or unemotional, not like those typical women, right? I'm saying that because there is a lot of sexism, obviously. And that's what they want. They want these like result producing machines. And then they will promote you and they will, I mean, like they will show you as an example, be like, why can't you be more like Kellie?
Right. A lot of and there's podcasts on this around women taking, antidepressants and different things so that they can be robotic. And I see it in my corporate life, like people thinking like, oh, we've got to lower our standards to be, to meet with to for women to raise up, that kind of thing, or they're emotional, they're crazy. I hear that quite a bit. And it's complete nonsense. So it's good for me to just want to, that kind of environment is not where I really want to spend a lot of my time. So that's
Yeah.
the beauty of things like this, programs like this.
Yeah. And I feel like for your quote unquote type, if there was a type, like for this type of coping strategy, if you will, I think it's sometimes it can be harder to get to the place where you're ready to pivot, because you don't feel a lot of these like, traumatizing deep emotions like some people who perhaps are more in touch with themselves, they do feel, right? So for them it's almost impossible to show up, whereas you can, right? And I think one of the things you and I spoke about throughout this program, sometimes the resistance that you had, or like these two worlds that you lived between, were like safety, security, and the paycheck, and you really enjoying that and being able to show up, and then your truth, your purpose, your impact.
Yeah. And it's continually a struggle, like just balancing between the two, but I can see both now, which is very helpful. And I can reason out with each one a little bit better, versus just, I saw a placard on for like, where you put like the little placard on your desk and it was wage slave. It's like, that sucks. But that's been, that's kind of where I've been, is wage slave.
Yeah.
Again, I keep wanting to say, like, it's done me well. I'm done well in this world. And I think you're 100% correct. Like, if you have deep emotions, and I see people that are very in touch with their emotions in the corporate setting, and they have big swings, and they have, they're either like unicorns or like the crazies, right? So, but it's just because they're much more in touch. Where I have actually, I did some work at one point where I actually felt like a robot. Like, I did not even have any kind of, people were yelling, losing their minds. And I'm like, okay, next. Like, I hear you, but I need you to move on, and we've got stuff to do. So, which is not where I want to be.
One last thing. I feel like what you're talking about, that inner conflict, is I think what a lot of career changers, people in general, experience. Of like, oh, I either love what I do and I live in a box under the bridge, or I have the money. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I have security. And I feel like what my goal, hope, wish is, to be an example of possible, but also just, help people see that those two can meet in the middle, where you are earning for your gifts. And you don't need to be like either or. You do need to sell your soul, or you do need to just enjoy what you do. Because if you don't earn the money, it's very hard to be enjoying what you do and be sharing your gifts, because it doesn't feel safe then. And I think like that's the dilemma with a lot of artists, with a lot of healers in the past. That's what it was. Whereas I feel like the future is bright for us. Anyway, thank you so much, Kellie. That's really interesting. We don't meet a lot like you, unique people with your nervous system on this podcast, at least. Thank you. Annore, I'd love to hear your story, because it's quite a lot. It's quite different than Kellie's.
Yeah, mine's very different. I've been working as a nanny for like over 2 decades, right? And about 5 years ago, just actually as COVID happened, I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is, and there wasn't a lot of emotion at that time. I'm like, I just don't want to be a nanny anymore. And I did find your podcast back then. And I remember like I'd walk on the beach and do the exercises and like just try and blindly go through this. Or like to be left at my own will. Like, I've got the exercises. Am I going to do them? I'll do them once, right? I'll make the list once or whatnot. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done with nannying. And then another job would come up, and it's the whole shiny carrot, golden handcuffs thing. It's more money. It's more status. It's, I'm climbing up the ladder, and the sort of nannying I do or did, that is very corporate like, you kind of have to dress like you're going to the office. Anyway, so that's a cycle that just kept repeating. And then my body just went, stop it, just stop it. Like, I'd get to work. I used to work in cycles like rota, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. I'd get to work, and within 24 hours, my body would like literally swell from inflammation, emotional inflammation. It was just the oddest thing to observe, because like Kellie, I would also numb out, kind of check out. I would check out. It would take me 5 days to emotionally prep to get to work. I'd get to work, and then my body was doing all sorts of things. And I'm like, at this rate, I'm heading, for a heart attack or something. Like, it's just not on. So for my change was quite drastic. Or I just resigned. I'm like, no plan, no nothing. I'm just going to take a career break. And then, then once I made that decision, all the synchronicities happened. So I was listening to, I didn't even know you did group cohorts. And I was like walking in the park. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool if I could be in a group. Not even like a couple of weeks later, I got a message from you. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. This is a yes. Of course, like the way I operate as well, I launch in before even thinking. I'm like, this is a full body yes. Boom, done. Bob's your uncle, I'm in. So that's kind of what led me to, to be on this path and in your group.
What were some of the stories that you told yourself as to why you can't pivot? So for you, Annore, because you probably felt for quite some time it's not for you, but what were the lies that you were telling yourself? It's like, oh no, we can't do that.
Yeah. Well, the biggest theme, I think, we know because I've just been in your group, is that, like, for me, having been a nanny, I'm like, well, I have no skills whatsoever. I just look after children. That's all I know how to do, which is absolute nonsense now that I think about, well, now, I know now, right? But I was so clouded by like, I have no skills. There's nothing else I can do. I'm doomed. Like, I'm on a career break to recover from burnout. And once that's over, I'm going to have to go back into nannying because that's all I know, right? And of course, loved ones, especially loved ones that only know their linear path, would be like, why would you throw that? Why would you throw all of that experience away? Like, what are you even thinking? Do it for a few more years and buy a house. Well, it's not really my path, is it? To be doing that. So that's the story I was sort of drowning myself in.
That sounds really heavy as well, where you're like, oh, I can't go back to this like ex that was abusing me, which is your ex career, but I also don't feel like anyone else will love me. So I'm stuck. And I'm sorry to use this can be, I'm sorry, this can be a traumatizing example for some people who experience that, but it really is like you're stuck between the rock and the hard place when you believe that narrative, what I'm hearing from you.
Oh, definitely. And then, I heard episodes with you. I think you had a nurse or a teacher on one of your episodes, and I'm like, oh my, because it's that caregiving industry as well.
Yeah.
That the people are more prone to burnout, in my experience, or my immediate experience at least. And it's like, oh my God, if they can do it, I can do it. But those are just empty words I was saying. There was no self-belief at all. It was just it just felt like this dark room with no way out, So yeah, that's basically how it felt.
This is really interesting though. Like, help me understand, because now I'm very curious. So when you don't feel like you have that belief that something else is available for you, and yet you join a program like that, so clearly there are parts of you that wanted to believe that there's a way out. What was it that allowed you to even join this program?
Well, I think the body is the wisdom. I know, and I've lived that. And like I said, like when the opportunity came out, it's like I launched for it before I could mentally catch up. So it's like my body was leading me. As my body was leading me out of my previous, couple of jobs, like, hey, red flags, we're going to give you a rash, or we're going to mess your cycle, make it completely all over the place, or you're going to have to go buy new underwear because you've swollen so much and like, arriving at work. So my body just went, hey, do this. Like, it's like a magnetic, it happens, and then my brain catches up. And then initially I'm just going through the motions until the penny dropped, or until those little moments, the breadcrumbs of, okay, right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I love that you at least you knew how to listen to the body, at least that. And by the way, that for the listeners, that comes after a break, because you did take a break to really just veg out and regulate as much as possible, because that was also needed. So it's not an easy journey back from there where you've been.
No. So just a recap is I decided consciously to take a year off, a career break. Not a sabbatical, not like a holiday. Like I literally had to recover emotionally and physically from the work environment and the lifestyle. The lifestyle was quite hectic as well. It's like last minute, hop on a plane, then you're in a different time zone, then you have to organize activities, then it's this, then there's also the emotional pressure from the parents and the household team. Then, it's back in another time zone and you just have to keep going and going and going. And so my body physically just couldn't anymore as well. So I was midway through my career break when I joined the program. And that's also interesting. I think I was the only one that wasn't working at the time.
Yeah,
So,
there's usually one or two in every cohort. Yeah. What was it, do you think, that allowed you or helped you to start seeing just how qualified you were, like, and how many amazing skills you have, but also intuition and interest, and how all of that is playing a part? Was it kind of just following the process and it naturally happened bit by bit, or were there some of the aha moments where like, oh shit, I've been like completely downplaying, I'm awesome?
Yeah, I think definitely the process, following the process, and then like I reckon coaching with you, because you just need somebody to say something in a certain way at a certain time for it to land, or for yourself to realize the self-realization of and they're like little nuggets. It's not, I didn't have like epiphany after epiphany. It was, little moments, little nuggets, and then reflecting on it and going, oh, actually, right. I also think I know when you're recovering from burnout, like that's just another layer of like, you have to kind of work through all that fuzz, an extra layer to also do the work. Does that make sense? It's like you're not switched on all the time because you're like literally recovering from burnout. And I know I use that word a lot. Just having been in a workspace or environment where the morals don't and the values don't line up constantly, that's actually what burnout for me is. So,
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, thank you. Kelly, what about you? You mentioned, I guess, the money, right? Were some of the thoughts or lies that you told yourself as to why you can't pivot? Was there anything else?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I have pivoted a couple of times. I was in, government space for 20 years and then pivoted to the private sector, which is a pretty big pivot. Um, I sold everything and moved to Japan at one point. That was a huge pivot. So I've pivoted a few times where I was spinning or confused or just baffled about was how to do it. How to actually move into like a soul aligned career. Um, and what's coming to my mind, I have a friend that she does. She was in fitness. She did yoga, and now she's done I think her 15th retreat or something abroad. And so, one day we were walking, and I was like, "Have you ever sat in a cubicle?" She was like, "God, no." And I was like, I can't even imagine not sitting in a cubicle. Like it was so foreign to my mind of well, what do you do all day? It's not that I need to be told what to do, but I know what's expected because I have a job description, right? So it's the like putting it together, or thinking of how things work. How could I put the pieces together? I think I've got a lot of the skill sets. It's just I couldn't figure out like how to, how the processes around getting setting it up and getting it going and how all that works. So that's really the thing that, of course, having insurance is very important for me. Having a solid salary is also very important to me. So those things were kind of anchors, I would say. But the pivot point was really just how the heck are people doing this? Like it's so foreign to my mind. Even that conversation about like you've never sat in a QB, like oh, and you travel around the world and you make a lot of money. Like how are you doing that? Like what is this magic trick? I need the formula. So that was my main driver, I think, for pivot wise. just a couple of other things, like my commute right now was really getting on my nerves. So there were like little clues, I would say, or little like needles. I don't really feel like I fit in, or like I'm kind of misfit, but that's been pretty much okay my life. Not a big deal there, but I just don't. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's kind of the driver for the pivot for me.
As you're talking, because I also have been so far removed from the corporate world, but I think I do remember what you're saying, because I would work with, like, when I was in corporate, I would work with different practitioners who were like, oh, well, I'm in Egypt. Oh, hey, I'm gonna call you from, Australia. And I would be like the same. I would look at them and be like, I think like they live in like alternate universe, because like they don't have a slave master. They earn the money, they do whatever the fuck they want, they still show up for me, right? And I would look at them, and I think I remember that feeling. It's almost like they cracked some sort of like secret code, because we were so inundated with all of that programming of like, you finish the uni, you get a job, you get another job, you move between industries, like this is all that you know, and everyone that you know around you mostly do the same thing. That's why I think during the group we also talk a lot about how, at some point, I even asked all of you to find those examples of what's possible, of people in your niches who are doing that successfully, leading that lifestyle, just so you would be exposed to seeing someone who's real, actually doing that, earning the money, having the lifestyle that you want, because sometimes it's so hard for the brain to grasp it just because it's so unfamiliar. So then we're stuck in this loop. And another piece that I feel like I'm hearing from both of you, and that's been true with every management that I worked. So I don't know if I'm just generalizing, but I've definitely heard that before. A lot of the times you are so great with conceptualizing and having visions of what could be true. A lot of like my clients would say like, Vilma, I woke up and I have this vision. I know exactly like what I need to do. I saw myself walking on the beach, and like, like, and you would have and every week it would be like these beautiful visions. But the struggle has always been for them to build the bridge and take those steps. And how do I go from me here today to that vision? Because it feels so far away and so impossible. So their only coping mechanism they have is get another vision, distract themselves from that vision, because it's very hard to follow through. Would you agree with that?
I think that's accurate. I mean, for this program, it's been follow the process, which is a challenge because I like to bounce around. I like to get the gist. Okay, let's move to the next thing. And so that would be one of the mantras Annore and I had together. Like, okay, I'm just going to follow this freaking process.
Oh my God. I'm just reminding Kellie, follow the process. Remember what Vilma said, just follow the process.
Yeah. And as you both have said, actually, like the way to build that bridge is to like lay a brick at a time, right? Do a thing and then look at the thing and then do the next thing, and just like one step. And then before you know it, you've got yourself a bridge. But it's, yeah, I would just say the visions are, exciting and shiny, and like, I won't say that I haven't already, since the program ended, like chased a couple of sparkles, but I am remembering like take a step, do a thing. So I think that's been very helpful to building that bridge.
Yeah. For me, having this anchor to come back to trust the process and do the steps is really, really helpful, because obviously for all the many reasons. But I've also realized like I can do that, and to feel the managing need for requirement for doing all the things, I can still have my little ideas book, of which I have many, right? Notes up, ideas, actual physical diaries everywhere with ideas. And I can still do other things to feel that multi-potentialite need to expand and do all the things, and then come back and follow the process. So that's really, really been useful, because before, again, it's like you have it, like you have an idea, now what? There's too much pivoting and jumping around to actually follow a solid process, the sacred masculine vibe of, the process that you guide us with. So, yeah.
I will say, just to honor your design as Mangen, like this process is not built ideally for you two. Ideally, because just for the listeners, each module, each theme unlocks every week. So when people start the process, they don't have access to the whole course. And I do that to constrain the attention and like give bite-sized pieces so they could focus on one thing. Otherwise, we get overwhelmed. But I feel like for Mangen, ideally, you would have access to all of it from the very beginning. And then you follow, if say both of you are sacral, you follow your authority and you go through it in the way that you would need to go through it. In the end, if you had accountability or like our weekly meetings, I think you'd still get there probably just in your way and doing a lot of like zigzagging around. So probably that would have honored your like the way that you work the best. I feel like this process probably works the best for generators. That's my experience. But because the majority are generators, we have to at some point, right? I had to commit to a format that would work for the majority, being mindful that it's not going to be ideal for everyone. In the way when we recorded a podcast with Catherine, who's a manifestor, I also told her many times, and you heard me say on calls, right? Is like for manifestors, they don't usually do amazing with groups. They don't have the same need to connect with others or share.
But you can still, the way I did, maybe the way I just tailored it to me, like because the modules are like spaced out. If I want to do something daily and take my time, I will. But most of the time I was like, well, I'm just going to like randomly do all of this week's modules like here, and that works for me. And that's how I also take in information the best way. So, you know, listening to your body, you've got this structure, but then also listening to your body and how, and just, you know, tune in. That's a big one. And then you'll know what works best for you. You can tailor it.
What was it like for you being in the group, like for both of you? Was it helpful?
100% yes, for me. Definitely. Because I felt so alone coming into this process, mentally alone, like I was in my own bubble. Not that I want other people to suffer and feel like I do or did. You know, community since COVID, like the lack of community, communicating how people want to do different things and want to change careers. Like people don't talk about this as much as I'd like to hear. I don't know. That's just my experience. So coming into a group and hearing everybody's story and feeling connected like that served me very well.
For me, it was helpful to see where people were at. It kind of binds the group together when you can relate to somebody that's struggling through something that you've been through or that you can recognize. So the container and, you know, having somewhat of accountability of like, I'm showing up and I'm going to, you know, participate. Being seen was huge for me. I think that's probably one of the bigger shifts actually for this program is like for anybody that hasn't taken Vilma's course but plans to in the future, she has an amazing skill of like a laser focus beam. And if you are one that does not like to be seen, the spotlight will be shown. So not in a mean way and not in a bad way, just in a very direct way. So I think for me, it was helpful for me to show up and be seen. It was helpful me to other witness other people having, you know, their challenges and their difficulties. And also just to kind of keep with the process. Very helpful, just the regular, the cadence of it. I would usually walk away with some type of insight of like, oh, that's a good, you know, that's a good way, or that's a good path, or I should talk to, you know, somebody else about something that they're going through. Like I have another reference point.
And I feel like for you also as well, like what you said about being seen and being witnessed as well. And I don't know how much, again, you don't need to share if you don't feel comfortable with sharing, but I'm curious, what is it about you being able to show up in such a powerful way where you are seen at work? Because you said, like, I speak, I do presentations, I'm really comfortable with them. And then joining a group, which is a pretty small, intimate group. It's not like there are hundreds of people staring at you on Zoom. It did feel harder to take up space. I think for you, not even being seen, but like also take up space. And to remember when at one point we joked, I was like, Kellie, you're allowed to say full sentences. Like, it's okay. Like you can actually expand on certain things. What do you think that was harder? Was that because we were touching some more authentic parts of you or something else?
You know, there's certain people that I have met in my life that can just see me. And a lot of people aren't looking. So in the corporate world, you can mask and you can be, and you're on the timetable. So you're all about like, I do we do an hour-long quarterly presentation that I usually at least co-host in. It's stressful, but it doesn't bother me in that I know there's a limited time frame. I know exactly this, like, it's just very structured. And no one's asking me any questions. I'm the one asking the questions. So it's very easy, or it's so much easier for me to present in that way, because I feel like it is somewhat of a masquerade ball. In this container, part of that coming online is really being comfortable with being vulnerable, right? And just kind of like spitting it out. One of the things, like the gremlins that I had for this program, and like why I didn't want to use full sentences, it has to do with being, wanting to kind of remain a little bit invisible or opaque. But it also has to do with like time management. Like I wanted to be succinct, so that we could like get through all of the pieces. So it was kind of a time thing for me. But that leads me to think that actually it's like about value. What I have to say doesn't really matter. So I'm going to just keep on going, and like we're going to move on to the next thing. Multi-layered thing, I guess, the amount I'm thinking about it.
So it's kind of like when you're at work, you treat it as like a method actor. It's like that's the role I play. And I don't need to necessarily be nervous, or, it's just you only get to see one version of Kellie, like this version. That's it.
It is kind of like that. I worked for it with the CIO in the past, and he was saying like he would do that. His partner worked on Broadway, and he basically was like, I'm just playing a part. And if I need to be the good guy or the bad guy, I'm just playing a part. And I at the time thought like, I don't know about that. But yeah, I'm exactly doing the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if that's a pattern that you could relate to, because the reason why I'm bringing it up, I just sense that a lot of career changers have this, is like it can be really uncomfortable to not know. Because for the longest part of the process, you really don't know. You're just adding one puzzle piece by puzzle piece. That's how the process is built. And I wonder if, again, us coming from corporate background, like you always need to know the answer. So when you don't know, it's almost like, am I allowed to even speak? Doesn't even matter what I say because I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, I like that thought. I have gotten over the last few years, like when I moved into leadership, got very comfortable with not knowing the answer and being cool with other people being the expert. Not afraid to say I don't know, I'll find out, like those types of things. But I did have that in the past, and so I know that that's definitely a thing. I see some of my my current coworkers, like, oh no, I must have the answer. It's like, no, come on, you don't need to have all the answers. Like we're just having a conversation.
And I think it's also about asking for help and receiving. So that's kind of very feminine qualities that a lot of us have suppressed, of like, oh, I feel vulnerable and I want to ask for help and I'm open to receive it because it doesn't feel safe. It's not familiar for a lot of us. And I think, Annore, to some extent, you also have that, because I feel like in your environment, you also are that safety and that like soundboarding person for people around you. So I think taking up space, as well as a nanny, right? You were the person that kids and parents went to for support. Do you relate to that pattern?
Yeah, definitely. Like every time in the group when it was my turn to say something, this was initially, I'd kind of feel myself checking out and talking really fast, and like not like it's like, wait, what did I just say? And it's already over, because it's that. But I feel like that's just a collective wound as well, like the taking up space thing, especially with women and whatnot. And this is good, it's like every group session, it's another little layer peeled back. It's a bit more healing, and if you're going to do anything in the online space moving forward, or it's good to be vulnerable and take up space and be in your body. Like that's something that slowly was part of the healing journey for me, and still is, and always will be. Slowly, but it's happening. Like I'm in my body now. I don't feel like I need to talk at 100 kilometers an hour. I can be here, which is very different to like 8 months ago.
That's cool. I really am excited to talk about what you both are building. Before we move there, maybe I think the last question maybe I have for you is, what has been the most challenging part of going through the career change and now launching the business, or maybe still remains the biggest challenge for both of you? And whether parts of you that you almost had to grieve, that was really hard to say goodbye to because perhaps they served you in the past. Okay, these are kind of two questions. So feel out whatever comes through.
I mean, when we actually got to the bits where we get to start practically implementing wherever it is we're going, right? And it's that cliche, but it's not a cliche. It's a quote, like, you take the first step, then the path will reveal itself. That's literally how it works. Do the thing, and then you'll see what the next step is, or in the managing world, like many steps or many doors or whatnot. But that's still hard for me. But I wake up every day and I'm like, okay, I don't know, but I know what steps I'm going to take today. Yeah, that's my little.
That's profound. That's so beautiful. I almost don't want to speak now anymore because I'm like, okay, let's end the podcast here. That's it. That is so true. And by the way, when you say about like stepping into that more powerful, authentic version of yourself, that never stops. We will forever, with every choice, continuing to step more into, like, I'm still doing the same. Like all of us are still doing the same.
Yeah, and it's like it's becoming comfortable as well with that. The way you used to socialize is going to look different. Who you socialize with is going to look different. Like, I don't know, what you consume, what you watch, what you listen to is going to change. Like, I was so hell bent on holding on to that rock and roll chick that like just watches murder mysteries, which I still do a lot, like especially the Swedish ones. And
The best
always
candy, like
yeah,
I love candy.
are the best, absolutely. But also like integrating, like cool, you can have those parts of you as well, you know. I'm a Gemini. I have lots of parts as like not just manager, and I'm also a Gemini. So it's like I want all the dark black clothing and whatnot, and then I want like the sequins and the pastels and the rainbow lightness. So yeah, grieving the parts of you that you can't take with you. Like it's change is the only thing we know. It's the only constant. So yeah.
That was beautiful. And yeah, I feel like when we move into alignment, a lot of the times it's either being what you said about all of these different aspects within you. It's like finding a way how to either integrate them at the same time or have pockets of your life or business where those parts have space. Right. So like my style as like a sun in Aries and ascendant in Pisces, I would wear like military heavy duty, like boots or like, Dr. Martens. And then I'll wear a really flowy, like feminine dress, right, with a lot of flowers. And I see that even as I was changing career, I saw a lot of that where like all of those parts, they want to be expressed more and more in every single detail. And that is such a beautiful unfolding and you just getting to know yourself with each stage. So I love that example.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be either or. If you want to integrate, it can be and, right?
Yes.
So
what about you, Kellie?
I agree and want to echo Annore, like the trust fall is huge. And just my visual is like Alice in Wonderland just keeps falling and falling and falling. It feels like that. It's like another layer of trust fall.
Yeah, I think Kellie, for you, also one thing that I remember that you and I spoke about a little bit, a lot of the times, one of the distraction strategies we will all use is consumption versus creation. And I feel like you've been so great and you're so knowledgeable because you've been consuming a lot. And that was one of the ways perhaps to distract yourself or, because both of you, your core values are ongoing learning. So yes, to some extent it is who you are, but sometimes you would use that against yourself.
Yeah, I think, and it was astute, like to point that out. I think I actually enrolled in another course, like, oh, I can do this other thing. And, but then when I sat with it, I was like, oh, this is like, this program is not for me. Actually, I knew it like after just looking at a little bit of material and I backed out. Like I backed out, but that was just me jumping into the next thing to see the next thing. It's like, no. So I've consciously decided like, there's no classes. I need to like, I'm going to spend, my hobby is doing the second career thing, fourth career, whatever career I'm on. That's the hobby now. That's the way, like, that's the path.
I love that. That is so good. For all the many gens, if you have the same pattern, that is exactly how you cheat the system cheat your own mechanics of like, listen, but it's still, there are so many things that you could learn here. It's just more intentional. So meaning that when you consume now is actually taking you places versus distracting your focus. This is so cool. I would talk about it forever, but let's move on. So let's talk about what you decided to create, both of you, what you're moving into, because I'm sure listeners are also curious about that. Maybe Honor, I'll come to you now. With all of your Gemini-ness and all of your Manjan energy and being interested in so many things, that was one of the challenges, right? It's like, how do I start building the foundation and choose like one thing? And I would always tell you and promise you, was like, you can always add more later. Let's just like start with one piece, please. And I feel like you've been nailing it and you've been doing such a beautiful job. So can you share with the listeners how you arrived to that decision and what you're currently building and launching?
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely hard. Was hard for me. It still is a little bit of a. I have to remind myself that this is just the cornerstone. So the cornerstone that we worked that. Thank you to your guidance. Like, just do the thing, lay the stones, get the foundation down. And I've already, since I've started, it's been like 6 weeks. Like, rebranded 3 times and like pivoted already a little bit, but. It's more fine tuning, refining, not like completely changing and going off track. So what I'm busy building now is, so I'm really passionate. One of my passions is human design. Um, I'm no complete expert, but I'm an expert in childcare and how human design and childcare comes together. And how that I've seen in all the different families I've worked for and in the family dynamics I've been. And I just, I'd find myself thinking, if they just implemented this or this tool from human design, it would be interesting to see how that pans out and how that would change the dynamics. So what I'm working on now is human design for parents, tools and embodiment practices and things you can do as a family. So that's the cornerstone I'm working on now. And then probably down the line, I'll add sematics and thought work and lots of other things. But for now, it's human design and parenting. Understand your child, understand yourself, and understand your child or children. It's not just the human design either. It's even deeper than that. It's the 4 arrows. It's the digestion and the environment and all of that, and how you can support your child in the best way so they can flourish. And we break that cycle, how we were raised and the systems and all of that.
Wow. Yeah. I'm obsessed with this direction right now for you. First of all, because what you're doing is something that I always advise people, at least to start with, is not completely discard the experience and years of knowledge and intuition and know-how that they have from the previous industry and kind of take the bits that you are still passionate about or believe in, but package it in a way that is more aligned for you, which is exactly what you're doing. You're bringing in this element of human design, but you also deeply understand the mistakes that parents and caregivers make, right? You've literally lived that. You deeply understand. So therefore, for you, like, offering this is kind of like, well, obviously you would do that, but so many people who are transitioning, they really want to discard the previous experience because it hurt them. It was misaligned, right? And it's not easy. And I know you and I even talked about maybe working with, I think at one point we discussed working with nannies or doing something, and you were like, too close to home. I really, like, I need to be careful how I re-engage with that world.
Yeah. And I did want to completely be done and dusted. And so when I started putting everything together, it was just human design, like just your regular human design sort of reading or whatnot. But I do have this insight, and at the end of the day, it's like it's up to the families or the caregivers to take that knowledge, embody it, and live the experience, giving that information, giving the tools, and then you can take that and go and experiment with it. It's not going to change overnight. Implement the tweaks here and there and see what happens. Like, change takes time, and if you can create the right environment and support their energy type in the way that's suited for them, wow, amazing. Watch them flourish, but give it a little bit of time. And so yes, I was drawn towards that. And I feel good about it. I don't feel icky about it. It's cool. I still don't really want to engage with that the nannying too much. So this is a bit broader, nannies, teachers, parents, aunties, uncles.
100%. Whoever cares for the children wants to understand them better. I really love it. I think it's brilliant. We're also going to leave all of your details in the show notes for people who want to reach out and connect with you. And just one piece that I want to emphasize, because I think it's relevant for a lot of people, is when we were um, looking through your career pillars. By the way, for ManGen, I feel like for you, the blueprint is important. I would really advise you to not, that's one of your anchors for both of you, to be like, okay, these are my pillars because I'm getting distracted and only maybe hyper focusing on one pillar, but what about the other for you? Right? Just remembering that. For you, Annore, because my new obsession is because I have so many obsessions. But like my current obsession is light worker archetypes and really understanding if you want to help people, planet, the animals, you usually have primary and secondary archetype. If we start looking at what's available in the industry, say coaching, because you study coaching, and one of the things that people offered you was like, why don't you do one-on-one coaching? However, this is a particular archetype that you are not. So for us, it was really for you embracing, we call it teacher. At first, you really didn't like it, but this is educator, teacher, someone who's here to share the knowledge and move the fuck on, right? That's a primary archetype. And I think, again, so many light workers who are starting out, they're so confused. They're like, well, everyone is saying me the money is in coaching, so I should become a coach. But I feel like so much resistance to working with people. And you lived that for a little bit. So for you, I think one of the reasons why you could now move into this is because you're really leaning into your actual archetype of sharing, educating, and then following whatever else sparks your interest and then sharing again when you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I was at a get together this weekend, like a human design thing. And this one woman said, well, what makes you the expert to give, you're not a parent, what makes you the expert to give advice and how are you going to coach them through it? I'm like, okay, two things. Yeah. I'm an expert in my field. Okay. Because I've seen family lives through so many different lenses. It's just, I love that about myself, actually. And the other thing is, I'm not here to coach anybody through anything. Here's the tools, go and implement it. And then if you have questions, we can talk. But it's your experiment. You've got it. And this is where the teacher thing comes in. And yes, I was super resistant to that word, but it's just a word. And there are lots of synonyms for teacher, right? And so we did explore all of that until something resonated. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's validating for a lot of people who are considering coaching, but for some reason they're like resistant. It could be that it's just not your way. That format or like that business model just does not work for that particular light worker. So just being mindful of that. Kellie, what about you? What are you creating? Do you want to know your archetypes based on my system? Do you want to guess? Because you're intuitive.
I feel like teacher must be in there.
No.
Great. Okay, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say no. If you're relating to that, yours is, I think yours are very equal. I don't know which one is primary. Maybe. So you're architect / mystic.
Nice.
So architect is systems building, no bullshit. Let me lay it out for you step by step. Mystic is energy and witchiness and all of that esoteric that you also are. You just haven't necessarily led with that in business settings or like in your own business. So yeah, I think primary is architect for you. Secondary is mystic.
It's helpful. I look forward to hearing more. So I launched a website, kelliepierce.com, where I offer business coaching to business newbies. I'm really focusing or would like to focus on folks in the wellness space. So this is the nerdy type stuff, like for the US, how you set up a business. Do you want an LLC or an S Corp? Those types of things. But, having insurance, do you need it? Disclaimer statements, all the different types of things that you may not want to look at. But we can talk through. My ultimate goal is just to be your buddy along the way as you start, because I love empowering people to do this type of work. So I have that started. That part is somewhat like where the rubber meets the road and can be very overwhelming. But if you just have somebody to talk to, this is just the talk through part. I can provide a lot of references and ideas and things that I've seen in the past to help you kind of bust through those blockers. Another shiny sparkle that I'm following right now is I'm looking at purchasing a business. So I want to do something where I expedite, somebody else's experience and also build that out just to see if I can do it. So those are my two pieces of my little platform.
Would the business be in a wellness space or not necessarily?
Wellness is more of what I'm looking at. Like, as an example, I'm not super interested in laundromats and that type of stuff, which is very popular online right now. But yeah, in wellness space, I've been looking at retreats or retreat centers, that type of thing as well, yoga studios. For me, I've got the government experience. I've got about 10 years of corporate, and now entrepreneurship would be a cool thing to do that my 80-year-old self would be pretty proud of.
Yeah. And it's really aligned with you if you also, especially if you're looking at wellness and healing and all of those spaces, because to your point. So basically, Kelly's someone all of you need to go to and hire her when you are launching a business and you're overwhelmed with all of the practical, financial, legal stuff, or just need someone to help you with like lay out the processes and systems and things. I think you would be really great with that. And you, similarly to me, what I always say, because I also feel like I'm on the bridge. I feel like you're similar, where like you speak the language of a lot of healers, you understand their modalities, but you have certain qualities that a lot of them don't, which is the groundedness and being able to plan the behind the scenes and the operation part of it. Yeah, so that's a beautiful skill set. Yeah, and very aligned. I'm excited. I'm excited for your retreat center the most.
Me too.
Yeah, I just want to come.
I'm looking through. That's why SBA loans, like this is one of the things I learned. You can do real estate with those, and so that gives me even more borrowing power. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Amazing. Can you buy one in Europe? So like it's easier for me and Annore to go.
There are so many like in Portugal, and there's a bunch in Turkey. Like, oh yeah, and they look.
It would be cool.
Turkey would be amazing. I don't. Yeah, I'll think about it.
I'll come back to you on that one. Amazing. Is there anything else that perhaps we didn't touch upon about the process, about your experience, about what you're working on that you wanted to share?
I just have one note for anybody looking at this program. Like, I am, as Vilma said, like very process oriented, and the videos and the streamline and the process is literally flawless. So if that is something that I've done many programs, if you might have you might have got an idea. And it's really hard to find a program that end to end is relatively like I could not, there was no gaps, there was no pieces where I was like, I wish I would have had more information on that. So I found your program to be really great, like end to end, and supportive in the middle as well. So good job.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, because I know that you are process oriented and you've done a lot of programs.
I've also done a lot of programs, and yeah, the flow was amazing. And I didn't feel pressurized or guilty or anything if I didn't manage to like do a week or whatnot, which I've had in previous programs. So I don't appreciate that. But that was also just a learning experience for me. What I wanted to say was also, you don't have to wait until you're like at burnout point, or like literally it's now or never. You can, if you get the little seed of, hey, I want change, go for it. You can still continue like most people with their current day jobs and follow the process to get in touch with what your values, what your pillars, what your archetypes are. So, you can move forward from that. You literally don't have to wait like the bitter end like I did.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Because I think a lot of us, we're humans, right? We're like, well, maybe he's going to get better, even though he's going to shit and you're on the Titanic, especially now, right? Like what I'm observing, a lot of people are coming to me. My colleagues are coming to me, our fellow career coaches, and they're like, the industry is shifting. People are losing jobs like millions, like really quickly. Scale and speed is unprecedented. And they go like, how do we support them? I'm like, yeah, like, how do we support them? Like my process is not quick. My process is like, let's get back to the depths of your soul and your truth, right? It doesn't happen in 3 sessions, but it is changing. So if you already are sensing, to your point on, or like you are already sensing, no matter what your authority, human design, astro chart, you probably know, don't wait till it becomes really, really difficult and you're stressed out and the survival fear kicks in, where like, I have no savings, I just got fired, what do I do now? Because then it's much harder to figure it out. And we're more likely, you know, emotions high, intelligence low, we're more likely to make misaligned decisions in those situations. But also, I don't want to be like a doomer and be like, oh my gosh, it's going to shit. I think it's a valid advice. And I wish someone had told me that. My breakdown was buying one-way ticket to Iceland and moving to north, you know, by the Arctic Ocean and talking to seals every day. Because I was like, I literally, that was my dramatic moment, because I didn't know, you know, how to get out. So yeah, that's a good one. Is there anything else? I feel like you already did, but is there anything else you would tell other career changers or your past self who's thinking about change? Is there like a piece of advice that you would like to reiterate for those people who are like struggling right now or feel confused?
Like, everybody's path is different, and just take the first step. Even when our program closed and I actually had to put a post online, like that first step, it's just so liberating. Just take the first step. Block the family and school friends off your Instagram business space. And just trust the process. Trust the process, and trust the timing as well. Trust the timing of life.
I think that if you decide to do something for yourself, and if this is that thing, like, then you will get a lot of benefit from it, right? So it's like choosing you. Definitely get your savings and all those different things like in stacked up, and it's going to empower you to learn how to take that next step, or just work through all of the crap that's in your head that is keeping you in a place where you don't want to be. And it will help you clear the house, clear the deck, just clear it, so that you can then take the next step. So it's like, it's for your own empowerment. And that is huge for people when you're feeling, when I'm feeling frustrated, I feel stuck. If I feel stuck, I kind of get erratic and I may move to Japan or something crazy. So it's better for me to find manageable and reasonable ways to empower myself, so that I then have the tools so that I can then make the change. So I think it's empowering for yourself, and it's choosing you, which is a good thing.
Amazing. You guys are so wise. I hope this is not the last time we're recording this. I always tell to all of my guests, I want you to come for part 2 in a couple of years when you are in a different phase, and to share with the listeners what you're creating. Because I feel like you've hopefully both tasted, and Annore, hopefully you as well, now that you're also posting more on social, is like how, to your point, liberating and expansive it feels like to really just be playing with your truth and authenticity. And even though, yes, it's very scary to put yourself out there, but at the same time, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in. It's like, now I know what it tastes like. I need more of this.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's like a little personal muscle that, to work in your trust muscle. You're strengthening your belief in yourself. Every day you show up for yourself. I can just talk in cliches all day, but it is true because it's just happening for me. And oh my God, we'll definitely get together when I've quantum leapt and I'm snowballing.
When you've taken over the world, both of you, please remember me. Come back on my podcast. I love this. Thank you so much, ladies. It was so much fun. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for vulnerability. Thank you for trusting me to guide you in the process. And yeah, like I said to the listeners, we'll have the offers, the details, the links in the show notes. So feel free to reach out to both of them. Annore has amazing, really cool, interesting readings. Like as a group, we tested it out. It was really informative, and I think the way that you speak about it is also unique, which is something we always talked about, is like really what Kat said in the Human Design podcast is kind of like taking it and releasing it through your crystal, which is always going to land with people differently in a very unique way. And Kellie also is brilliant at like helping. And I think, Kellie, you also been helping a lot, even with our group. I've seen that like architect within you, where you would really reach out to support the ladies, and it comes just so naturally for you. So please reach out to the ladies. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy this content, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a quick review to help us share the message of aligned work with the world. And if you'd like to learn more about how to find and transition into your very own purpose-led career or business that feels like getting paid for being yourself, make sure you check out the episode notes below. Have a wonderful week.